Okay, so at this point, I see that my training partner is unwilling to move in the vor. He's committed to responding. He's committed to taking opportunities, instances of motion that I'm willing to give him. And everything that I've tried, I see his sword is on his shoulder. I've offered him a weak point to see if he'll sheathen through it. Or if I see his point is low, I'm looking at him to take the hands. And I offer him my point. And instead of taking the hands, he just backs out. He just pulls distance and keeps me away from him. And the only way it seems that he's willing to commit his hitter is by waiting for me to get close enough where that hitter is going to be guaranteed. And so in these cases, if I want my opponent to seize the vor, I have to be a little bit more creative. So one of the things that I can do to get my opponent to seize the vor is I can get my opponent to wait for my turn to be done. So I can move into the Krieg in a weak way, offering my opponent some kind of action. If when I see that I'm interested in moving into the Krieg in a way that leaves me in a weak position or gives my opponent an opportunity to target me somehow, I have to do it in a way that leaves him with a reliable set of options that's narrow enough for me to respond to. So one of the things that I don't want to do is, let's say I want to move into the Krieg and I would just want to have a strong presence in the Krieg with his sword point low. So if I get close enough to Schiessen where I can actually hit him in this action, then he's just going to back up. And if he doesn't, then I'll Schiessen. But if every time I move forward he backs up, I realize, okay, I'm not going to be able to do it that way. One of the things I might think to do is I can get him to try and go for my hands by cutting into the Krieg. So I cut in this way, which is great if he goes for my hands. I can take and I can respond. I can respond by crumping the blade Verkehr and then work to the nearest opening. But the problem with that is that's not the only option that he has there, and it's not necessarily even the best option. So if I cut right into the Krieg and I'm here, he could easily, just as easily, take on that side, or he can take on the other side. I cut into the Krieg, and now I'm stuck in this mess. And so I don't want to put myself in the Krieg in danger of being hit without being in some kind of knock-rising situation, without being able to chase my opponent, forcing them into defensive postures. I don't want to give him his turn back when he has lots of options with regards to how he takes his turn back. So one of the things that I'm going to do instead is I'm going to try and cut into a guard that leaves him in a strong position and leaves me in a weak position. Now, theoretically, we might say, well, isn't that going to result in me getting hit? So my training partner's in long point, and I send my sword forward, and I cut into his plow. At this case, my training partner is very, very strong. I'm very, very weak, and I'm in a lot of trouble here if I let my opponent go forward without having some kind of plan. But the beauty of this situation is my training partner has very little else he can do other than choose the optimal solution in this situation. So again, when I cut into my opponent's plow, if he takes in a strong way, I'm expecting that he's immediately going to set back on me, and he's going to crush my weak structure, and he's going to stab into my chest in a strong way. And so what I can do is, knowing that that's happening, I can set myself up to be prepared for that thrust. And so I get a little closer, I send my cut, and then as he goes to take his turn back, again, this isn't Indes. He didn't work Indes my action. He waited for my action to come to completion. We stopped here, and then he immediately sets upon, but I know that the set is coming, and so I'm going to move to my hanging position, and I'm going to bring my sword forward as I move the rest of my body back so that I can defend against a potential slice. So again, we're here. My training partner's in long point. I cut into his guard. He sends a cut forward, and I'm going to move to my hanging position to defend against a cut and pull my body out of distance so that I can potentially get my offensive action and steal back the vor by giving it to him. Right? So in this case, I'm starting with the vor. My opponent's only interested in working the knock. I give him a strong position. He takes his strong position. He moves to the optimal situation. I'm going to hang, and I'm going to respond by, after I've deflected the thrust, taking his offensive action, moving back at a distance, and taking back the vor with my own offensive action. Thanks for watching Historical Fencing Channel content. If you'd like to learn more, check out our Patreon link in the description for detailed, one-on-one, tailored instruction. And don't forget to like and subscribe.